Well, hi, Thomas. Welcome to
Yeah,
video number 11, isn't it? 12. 12 now.
12. It's 12, believe it or not. Yeah, how are you, Neil?
Wow.
Yeah, I can't believe it's 12 either. And there's a nice feeling of spring in the air, I have to say. The
Beautiful.
sun is shining all over these islands at the moment. I was looking at the weather forecast, and I'm seeing the buds coming out on the blackthorn and everything. So that's a real feeling of spring in the air. And we can't talk about anything political, but we will. Uh,
Oh, yeah. We
we
had
will take
trouble. We
we
had
will
troubles
take
we can't speak of.
we will take the weather as a portent, an augury of better days ahead.
Absolutely. Oh, definitely. Definitely, yes. And we're a bit later on in the day today. Well, I've got snowdrops in the back garden and there's daffodils in the front. So I don't know what that means. Well, right in the middle of spring or something.
Yeah,
But
yeah, definitely.
I had a walk down the seafront in Lytham this morning. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous.
That's the Irish Sea there, right?
Yeah, the sea across, yeah, across the two. You can actually see, very, very rarely you can, but you can see the outline of the Isle of Man because it was so bright and clear this morning. You just see the island out there. And of course, straight across from there is Meath,
Yeah, yeah, right.
County
Like,
Meath.
yeah, right across Megalith country.
I've uh, I've done, speaking of megaliths, I've done my timetable for the year. I now feel like it's time to go. We have a lockdown and an unlock roadmap, as you probably know. So we've got to act as if. So I've put my tour timetable on my website now, and I've been sending it out to various people. So tours start in April. Fingers crossed,
Crossed, yeah.
toes, everything else.
I,
That's where I stand. And
I
of
have.
course, we've got ours in. Sorry, go on.
I was just saying. Oh, you finish what you say about ours in September. I've got some other Megalith news for you.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, we've got yeah, got our tour in September, and we can maybe if we get some time at the end go through the a bit of the timetable there and explain some of the size. But we're going to produce an intro, like a video for it, aren't we?
Yeah, that'll be coming out soon.
Mm.
There's a there's a movement here in Sligo at the moment to have the Colrera Peninsula megaliths. That's Queen Maeve and the other ones down in the valley below it.
Carramore.
Are more, yeah, listed as a UNESCO heritage site.
Ah,
And unfortunately, we all know what that means. They'll put a big fence around them all and they'll charge money. And you'll get your interpretive center. And what makes those megaliths at the moment great is the fact that you can go up there without like having even you can even get even most of Carramore you can access for free too as well.
mm,
Without and the what part you pay in is just a cursory thing to keep the
yeah,
pace the grass cut, which is I think is worth it. I have no problem with that.
yeah.
But they're looking to get the UNESCO heritage thing. So it'll be like they're looking for to put it like in the Stonehenge and Newgrange department.
Oh God, no, you don't
And
want that.
the irony is, I looked into some of the people who are lobbying for it, and they're directly connected to the same people who wanted to turn Carramore into a municipal dump back in the late 1980s.
God.
So it's the same political class who tried to destroy Carramore and now trying to get, and they'll be the ones who get the jobs in the
They're the
interpretive sector.
one. We know what
Yeah,
they're after. They're after dipping into the trough, aren't they?
yeah, looking for jobs for their family members. Oh, my son will be perfect for the interpretive center as the manager, this kind of thing.
All that sort of
It's
stuff.
the usual crap, yeah. But anyway, yeah, I don't think it will happen because it's not an important enough megalithic site, and there are other places in Ireland that
Yeah.
are lobbying for it that could probably get it before it. But it just goes to I'm always very wary of these UNESCO things because they what they do is that what they can do then is they take the magic out of them by saying it's this, that, and the other. And
Mm.
it becomes the ownership of like the globalists.
Absolutely. It's one a big global organisation. When we go down to Carramore, we always go into the little hut they've got there with it's kind of a small interpretation centre. And there's a lady in there takes us round. I think you pay a five or something. She takes you around on a guided tour, and she's very good. She really is very good. No bullshit, she knows the situation, and she's
And
obviously.
That used to be the old primary school.
Oh, did he? Oh, it's a little place, isn't it? Yeah. But the thing
Primary
is
school
about
for the
that,
village.
there's lots of little loads of stone circles that are in people's private areas as well, though, that you don't really feel like you can sort of go into,
Yeah, there's 160, including some very impressive ones in a couple of farmers' fields. And the farmers are pretty easy going, but the problem again is bulls. There's a lot of what you call it, dairy farming goes on around there. So there's a lot of bulls and randomly in fields here and there.
Right.
And they're dangerous, like
The real bulls, yeah.
Regular cows are dangerous, especially now as less people live in the countryside. They're becoming more and more dangerous. But again, the farmer will say, go in without your own risk, and you do have to be careful.
When I was younger, cows weren't scary at all. They were just cows, and bulls were. You were okay. You went to the field, but you would keep to the edge and get out. But now even cows are said to gang up on people. I don't know whether it's they're feeding them some sort of hormones or something that's made them aggressive. But when we were growing up, the saying always was, "Don't worry, they're more frightened of you than you are of them." Well, that ain't true now.
And you had them and no problem and everything. Another one is that, a woman was killed an American woman went to see the Round Tower on Devonish Island in County Fermanagh. And the minute she got off the boat and got onto the island, the cow killed her. So, and these are cows that are well used to, tourists and stuff. So you do wonder if there's some kind of thing or something.
Something's changed, definitely. It's a really, really strange situation. But anyway, yeah, so that's our megaliths. Strength.
Strength, yeah.
Give us strength.
Give us strength indeed. Today's card is the number 7.
Number 8.
Number 8, sorry.
Yeah, there we have it.
Strength or fortitude. It's sometimes known as the Italian deck.
You're back to front, aren't you?
Yeah.
I think it says 11. You're right. Yeah, of course. It'll be 9 then, won't it?
Yeah, and then energy is another. Energia is what the Italians call this card. And
that makes sense.
Or says another one. And also, Crowley called it lust in the Thought deck. Now, this card represents the psychic force controlling itself. You have all the attributes of your decisions and your life and your experiences coming up to this point. You have maintained them and you have them sequestered in you. But now you have to learn how, this is the growth of the mature person, that you now have to learn how to react and control and contain of these psychic forces. And these psychic forces manifest in many things, biological, as well as things like moods, as well as how you handle exterior situations. The animal inside us, often shown in most decks as a lion on the Italian deck. On the pagan otherworld, it's a black bear. Very nice. And it's always a female, usually, but not always. I've seen decks where it wasn't, but it's usually a female who is tempering the wild beast, and the Shakespearean thing then, like the tempering of the wild beast. And you have this whole notion of this essence of experience being brought to bear in elements of crisis, in elements of challenges, that it's rather than, unleashing the animal within, letting the savage beast within you run wild, you temper it, you control it, just enough so it also serves you, where it's not a case of where you just shut the animal down, the animal instinct then in you down completely. But what you do is you temper it because you still need that force, you still need that strength in both ways, but at the same time too, you cannot allow it to go out of control. and lash about, and then either within your psyche or within your personality or in your, whatever, your impulses and your inclinations, your impulses, and so on. So the strength card is very much a card about maturity in a lot of ways, that you've reached a stage where you should be able to react to situations in a more mature fashion. This is when, things like the art of war come about, right? It's a card very heavily connected to things like even things like gamesmanship, the art of the deal, this kind of thing, where you may have inside you this ferocity of, force, energy, but you're now using your psychic abilities through your maturity, through your experiences in life, to know that you cannot let that go out of control, and the animal has to be maintained inside you, but not completely muffled out, because that force exists for a reason. It's like plutonium. It can make an atomic bomb, or it can make electricity, and the strength card represents that. And esoterically wise, there isn't a whole lot to it really in terms of archetypes and so on, especially in things like paganism and so on. There isn't a lot to it that you could do it. The card is very much stands alone by itself, and I'm sure there's lots more in the Western esoteric thing that you can bring into this, Neil. But in terms of paganism and those kinds of archetypes, the strength card, the force card, the Forza, Energia, doesn't really have a lot to it in terms of referencing it to that. But again, it is about containment of animalistic and wild forces within oneself as a result of maintaining a sense of control.
Yeah,
and I'll let you take over from there.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I mean, that was what you said there was part of what I was going to say. That's like on the personal sort of micro level, where you use this strength, but you have to control. So you said that bit, and that's great. I totally agree with that. So that's a chunk out of what I was going to say. So I can expand on the other side of it, because it's part of, we mentioned the tarot tableau right at the beginning, which was this. And we said we had at the top, we had the Fool, and then on the top row we went right across from the Magician to the Chariot last week, and now we're starting on the Chariot last week. Now we're starting on the second row with Strength. Now the idea of the tableau is that we said that the Fool was outside the tableau because he's outside this journey that we're going on, this journey of learning. But the top row is principles, and the second row is laws or agencies. So what you do, you go from the top row, then you go underneath it to find out what law and agency you're going to use, and on the bottom it's the result. So what we had is, on the top row we had the Magician. Now the Magician, remember, so that's the principle. The principle is the Magician, and that was attention. So what we said about that is that we split the idea of consciousness into three: superconsciousness, self-consciousness, and subconsciousness. Now, the Magician was then looking up to superconsciousness, we're getting his idea, whatever he wanted to bring into fruition through his will. Which we said last year is the divine will. That was the Chariot, and he was passing that down to subconsciousness. So the way the law and agency is using is strength. It's the power. It's the universal strength, which again is the Fool. Where it's the one thing, the prima materia. It's that it's super conscious. It's the magical agent. It's the power of all the power that was or will be is here now. Is using that power, and that is the strength. I wrote the Emerald Tablet, little section for the Emerald Tablet. True without falsehood, certain and most true. That which is above is as that which is below, and that which is below is that which is above. For the performance of the miracles of the one thing. as all things are from one by the meditation of one, so all things have their birth in this one by adaptation. So what it's saying is that there's this one all-powerful thing in the universe, just one material, and it's everything you see is like just a different shape of that material. So so that power that comes from the beginning of creation and still carries on now is the power, is the strength that that the magician is using, or we are using, to bring about whatever it is we want to manifest. So I have a card here. Woo, that's the Rider-Waite pack strength. You see, it's I'll send you one of these if you want. You can put it up. But to go through the idea of the symbolization. So the letter associated with the Hebrew letter associated with the strength card is Teth, and this is the snake. And when you see the letter Teth, it's shaped like a serpent with its head up. And that is the old sort of symbol, occult symbol of wisdom. In Matthew 10:16, he were told to be as wise as serpents. In Genesis, right from the fall, which has been totally mixed up by most people who look into that sort of early Old Testament, he said the serpents is the most subtle of beasts of the field, more subtle than all the other beasts of the field. So it's what it's saying is like you use this strength. This strength isn't a bad thing; it's a good thing. It's subtle, it's clever, it's wisdom. It's wise to use this particular aspect of the universe, the power that comes from it. Number 8. Well, 8 is like the naught. It's infinity. Whenever you draw a naught, you don't take your finger off the paper, and if you do the infinity sign, you do the 8. It carries on forever. But it only just doesn't carry. It also builds up a rhythm. So what you've got is that energy, that vibratory energy. So it's saying that energy isn't just quiet and still. It's a vibration. We all were told, weren't we, that energy is vibratory, and that's just saying that this energy is that vibratory electric energy. It's also, if you look at the 8, it's 2 serpents back to back. Half of it is an S, and you turn it round and put another serpent over the top, and you have an 8. So it's really that's what you have on the caduceus. So it's all these things all tying together. It's all saying this is where the energy of the universe comes from. And so the infinity symbol, which we have above the lady there, and it's also above the magician, is saying the same thing. It's tying the two together. So we're using whatever we want to do here. We're using this incredible energy of the universe to bring it into play. Well, the whole card is saying the same thing as the Fool. It's saying that everything is involved. The whole universe is involved. You've got the ground, which is the mineral kingdom, because in occultism they talk about the different kingdoms. You've got the roses on the crown as well. This is the vegetable kingdom, which is actually wrapped around in a figure 8. The roses as well, and that means that not only is it the roses you said were active desire, but it's active desire, and now it's in a formation, so it's a controlled active desire. It's now meaning something. It's to form something. Of course, a human being is the human kingdom, and then the lion is the animal kingdom, obviously. So, but the lion is also quite an important thing in the whole occult training system, because you have different coloured lions. You have the red lion sometimes. When you go to a pub and it's called the Red Lion, but that's usually because that lord, whoever is the lord of that area, who took his coat of arms, and because the red lion will come from the coat of arms as the local lord. Well, he would have been an occult master, and so he would have been like a red lion. Or red lion is basically well, he would have been higher than that, but because the red lion is is showing like a very, very basic initiate. It's very, very low on the training system. So the green lion is the base lion, is the very, very base. So you don't really see green lions, because that is saying that you haven't really, that is your average person who hasn't really got any training at all. Where the red lion is somebody who's got the lion under control, which means that he's an adept in the magical system. So it's kind of more sophisticated. And then you have the golden lion, and the golden lion is the wise adept, sort of right at the top of the tree. But I suppose a lot of it now will just do Masonic stuff, but that's where it comes from. So what can you do with it? That's the question, isn't it? Well, it's very easy. The one good thing about this particular training system that I did, and I sort of move on to other people now, is it's really easy. It's simple. Because I've been in a different mystery school at another time where the amount of work you had to put into it, you couldn't have a life. You just couldn't get on with your day-to-day activities because you were always having to record what you were thinking and doing a meditation and all this stuff. But the good thing about this, the tarot, is all you really have to do is look at it. So you just get the card and you look at it in the morning for 5 minutes. Just don't think about it. Just cast your eyes all around it, and your subconscious does all the work. That's all you really have to do. So in a nutshell, it's all the power that ever will be is here now. And we're saying that power is the aspect of what we saw in the Fool. It's that primal material. It's the one substance that exists in all the forms of everything we see around us. So what we have to do is we have to learn to recognize this power for what it is. Acknowledge that it exists, and then try and become part of it. Try and build it into your own psyche, and recognize that basically everything we see, everything that comes into form, is just a result of this power. You don't have to connect with the results of what you're doing, because you just let it flow. Once you've used the magician to put your ideas into subconsciousness, then this power will do the work for you. So you've got to kind of really trust in it, trust in Key 8 to act on your behalf, because it's the power of the one thing. It's the power that existed before anything ever existed. It's the power that created the universe. It's the power that's still creating the universe now. And it's the power that you are now allowed to tap into and let it work for you. And thereby hang with the strength.
What you said about the prima materia, as the card is also heavily related to the sun. It's very much about the sun. In fact, I think in the top deck, the beast is a multi-headed beast that's kind of imagined as a fire elemental, almost like the sun, and the Scarlet Woman is riding on the back of this beast. So it's not only has it tempered the power, but it's also harnessed the power in order to go somewhere with it, and that's a very important element of the prima materia. It's like the sun being the aspect of everything, like that famous, the esoteric graphic of the egg being broken and the sun in the middle of it.
Yeah.
It's very much connected to that very idea that this power force is also a creative power force which can be channeled through us and into what we want to do.
100%, yeah, definitely. It's kind of one of those cards that is a bit of an add-on. It's very important, but it's kind of an extra, if you know what I mean. It is Leo, so it's me because I'm a Leo, but it's not the most exciting card in the world, but it is kind of an important one.
Yes, it isn't the most exciting card, and it's one that's it does at times seem like, what is this doing in the deck? Because in the major arcana, the aspects within it are covered in numerous cards in different ways. Then again, also it is related to physical energy as well, and the restraint of physical energy. So of like not wearing yourself out, burning yourself out, that kind of thing. That's a major part of it. And in terms of your physiology and stuff like that, like if you get this card a lot in you're working hard in a high pressure job or whatever. It's calm down.
Well, that's kind of tied in what I was saying about well, all you have to do is know that that power is there working for you, and then you can just you can take the pressure off yourself.
Yeah.
Don't keep thinking this is what I want. I need to work at it, work at it, work at it, because you can relax. You know that they have this power in the background working for you, so you can take that pressure off yourself.
Yep. So that's it. That's strength, really. That's all there is to say.
That's his strength. Yeah, give us strength. And we do need it.
Yeah, we do need, especially now.
Especially at the moment.
Yeah. This video is going out on my channel this time. Yeah. I've moved this series of videos to my Beyond Room 313 channel, but it still connects to all the playlists, so it doesn't get lost from a playlist. The reason for that is I'm trying to get more people over to that channel because a lot of the stuff connected to this esoteric stuff is more on that channel than on the Thomas Sheridan channel. So that's the reason why I've bounced my videos over to that. But it all follows in sequence no matter what. You get to see everything on any playlist you click on any channel. Now,
so on that, on the 313 channel, yeah, there's a playlist there with them all on.
Yeah, it's on the it's on. Well, it's what happens is if you go to the playlist on my channel or on your channel, it will go automatically to that channel and switch back to yours for the next video. But if you go to that video on your channel or on my channel, Thomas Sheridan channel, it will play all your videos and play all my videos. Right. Like nothing, the sequence remains no matter what channel you're on. It's on playlists everywhere. So yeah.
Don't forget to subscribe to everybody to both channels.
Yeah, it's 3 channels. Well, 2 channels now, really. But Beyond Room 313, I'm going to finish up the rest of the major account on that one. But I want to also build up things. So I've got a film on Jack Parsons coming up there. So I want to get as many people on that channel as possible. Now, we've decided to do a film this week, but we didn't do one last week, I don't think. And the film we're doing this week is the 1983 supernatural thriller based on the Stephen King novel, The Dead Zone, starring Martin Sheen and Christopher Walken. And I'll let you, Neil, run with this one first.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'd seen this before years ago, and I'd forgotten about it. I didn't realise that I didn't realise, well, when you see something again, you think, I've watched this before. But I watched it through again a couple of times, and there's a lot in it. I thought the first time it's just like your normal sort of supernatural sort of film, but there's a lot more to it, isn't it? It's a very bit of it starts slowly, so it's 1983, so it's it does look a bit dated, but it's a very slow, it's a kind of slow burn to start, but then it builds up and builds up and builds up. But I think, and it is kind of a bit scary as well. I think it's not just psychological, is it? There is a scary element to it. Yeah. He's a school teacher, okay. He's called Jonathan, or Johnny, and he's a good guy. He's a basic nice guy. This is Christopher Walken. And he's a nice chap, and he's a school teacher, and all the kids like him. And he starts off in the classroom, and you notice that he was reading, when it started, he was reading The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, which is quite a scary old spooky thing anyway. And it used to be even more scary, didn't it, before we had everybody chopping each other to bits in Game of Thrones. But I love The Raven. I used to live in Stoke Newington in London, and Edgar Allan Poe lived there for a while. So I kind of feel a bit of a connection with him. And the Raven is fantastic, but it is a scary old thing. It was on The Simpsons once. He did a Simpson episode about it.
Yeah, there was that actor above my door. Yeah.
And then he said to the kids, he said, right, off you go, right, and read before the next lesson, read Sleepy Hollow. And that's a really scary old thing about a teacher getting his head chopped off and things, he said. So
yeah, I've been to Sleepy Hollow. They built a whole industry on that Ichabod Crane. Remember, there was a cartoon version of that. I think what Walt Disney made it in the 40s.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, it's terrifying. It's one of those comedies. Oh, it's fantastic. But it's a kids' cartoon, but it rattles the bits out of the animations.
Cool.
So yeah, the Headless Horseman. There's actually another link there because in the movie Sleepy Hollow, Christopher Walken appears in that I'm pretty sure in that movie.
Oh, right, okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, so there's a link there. There's a Christopher Walken link there that
A
came up.
little tricky little link stuck in there. Well, anyway, he has a girlfriend, the lovely Sarah, and it's all lovey-dovey, and they're all going about to get married, and he's they went out on a date, took her out on a roller coaster, so that's building up the tension as well, isn't it? A little bit. Oh, you like roller coasters do. And then they went back to the house, and she invited him in, and they said, no, some things are worth waiting for. Famous last words, because it was on the way home that he was driving, minding his own business, really. It was like a milk truck or something, massive big container lorry, and it's one of those like a petrol type lorry. I can't really call them now, but he was falling asleep at the wheel, and he ended up detaching his trailer unit. It came sliding along the road in a way that it would never happen in the whole world. Would something just slide in a straight line up, and then instead of driving round it, he drove into the back. Because I know I've been a bit cynical, but that's the only problem. The whole film, I thought he could have driven around that easily. Anyway, smashed into the back of it, and he was unconscious. So he was taken to hospital, and the next thing you knew, he woke up, and it was his mum his mum and dad came in pretty much straight after, because he was talking to the doctor. He said, "Well, I have no bandages on," and he said, "Oh, well, you've been here a while. How long?" And he didn't say. And then his mum and dad came in, and she said, "You've been asleep for 5 years." And his wife, or his girlfriend Sarah, got married, and she had a child. And then the nurse was there, and this is where the spooky bit started, wasn't it? Because he held onto the nurse's hand, and he always got this rush of psychic knowledge, and he could picture himself in another bed in the nurse's house, and a little son was about in the corner, or daughter, a little child anyway. So he said, like, "Oh, your house is on fire. If you quit, you can go back and you'll be able to save your child." And this happened. And then, so of course, after that, just to cut it a little bit short, is he kept getting these, this kind of a new gift from what they were from the calling, the dead zone in the brain, which might have come alive, if I'm reading that properly. Yeah. And then he finds himself then at a dilemma, and this is like the crunch of it, I think, is that he's now got a powerful force that he didn't ask for and he didn't want. And so then you got to ask, this is what I thought, it's one of these, what would you do if you're in that situation? Because he saw one of the, somebody that was coming, standing for government, and he saw a vision of him with his hand on the nuclear trigger, about to shoot off he saw him shoot off the nuclear arsenal, and he kind of cheered and said, "What a great thing." So then his dilemma was, what can I do? Do I intervene or not? So then, basically what he did is he waited till there were this guy was about to appear on the stage to promote his campaign, and he hid away on the balcony with a gun. He wasn't really that prepared. You could tell he wasn't. He was very nervous, and he kind of missed the guy. But then the guy held up the daughter or the son, I can't remember, of Sarah, to blank himself, to cover himself like a human shield, and this ruined his chances in the election. So, but of course he got shot. Then he got shot. But I think he got to the point where he was unwell anyway. So really, I think he was glad to be glad to leave the world, really. But that's my interpretation.
Yeah, that's it. Well, it was a very sad film. It was a very sad story, and Christopher Walken, I thought, was great in that. He was very good. That was the period of his when he was making really from say The Deer Hunter to Communion. I think he made his best films. It was before he became, self-conscious Christopher Walken, the actor. There was just something special about him before he'd actually become this kind of parody of himself that he's become now. But along the way, he also solves a serial killer thing, and he's able to see one of the coppers is that's working with Tom Skerritt, the police officer. One of the coppers is an actual serial killer of girls, and his mother, Colleen Dewhurst, played by Colleen Dewhurst, knows this, and she knows that he has this power, but she calls it satanic. She says that he has a devil witch's power or something. But Martin Sheen, I thought, was fantastic as the U.S. president. Well, what would have happened? I think when he fired off the nuclear missiles at the Russians, he was shaking the hands of the foreign secretary, going, "We've done it. We've launched the javelins of Jehovah," and stuff like that.
It sounds very familiar to now, doesn't it? Really?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, Martin Sheen went on to play the U.S. president in a TV show, so that's another weird one. But there was also the kids who went to the ice hockey match when he told the father, he was tutoring the young kid, and he told the father, "Don't let them go play the hockey match," because he knew that the ice was going to break. So his psychic power, but as his psychic powers come along, they become a burden and a pain. And what the real story is, he is dead. Johnny was meant to die in that car accident, but he was dead, so he basically should have been dead. So he's kind of alive and in a kind of a world that had no time. His brain, the clock speed of his brain, was operating out of regular space-time, and through contact with people's touch, he could tell the past, present, and future. And the future. And this was essentially making him almost like a spirit or a demon, like in the occult. The reason why people trap demons or spirits is because they're not bound to space-time, like King Oberon, and they can actually get stuff from the future, stuff that's hidden, and this kind of thing. Also, something that schizophrenics demonstrate in psychiatric hospitals, amazingly enough, an uncanny ability to know things that they shouldn't know, and
the boundaries have been broken.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about schizophrenia, what that really is, and so it's a very sad film. I love the way Christopher Walken plays it with a lot of heart, and the film itself has a lot of heart as well. As you said, he's a decent guy. He's very uncomplicated in his life and stuff like that, and he's basically becomes thrown into the fate of the human race. And
he dies, doesn't he? Really, when you said he died, he did actually die because his life had gone. First of all, he got absolutely inundated with letters, the piles of letters, and the media wouldn't leave him alone. So he had to move home to hide. So he had nothing left of his previous life anyway.
He was in love with the girl, and then he goes into a coma for 5 years, and he wakes up still in love with her, only to find out that she assumed he was always going to be a vegetable, and he was never coming back. And then she's married with a kid to a nice guy, and like as if the poor guy hadn't suffered enough. But then he has to deal with that too.
He says that she says, "Okay, I had to move on," and she did have to move on. But he says, "Yeah, but for me, it's just one day."
I know. That was a very painful scene. I found that's why I found. So the film has a lot of heart to it, even though it does have the horror things too as well, like the cop who's a serial killer and stuff like that. But and I also like the way it did the juxtaposition of you had a cop who was a representative of the state who was a serial killer, and a U.S. president who was a representative of the state who was a serial killer. And that poetic justice at the end, where he holds the child up to shelter him, and that's the end of his career.
He's shown himself, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, total psychopath.
Yeah.
And
showed himself who he was.
Yeah, it just and also there's the scene where he grabs Martin Sheen's hand, and Martin Sheen sees the future, and he's holding on to it to see what's going on. I thought Martin Sheen's face in that scene, his expressions were amazing. It was like this bastard can see into my horrible soul. It was like it was.
But he'd been trying to hide all his life, yeah.
Yeah, and he did it with his just his facial expression and the background music. I thought that scene was fantastic. But
I gotta say that Johnny he showed himself to be a very strong guy as well, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because most people to put up with losing his girlfriend and losing his life and losing his teaching and everything that was that was him. You know, a lot of people would have folded under that, but he
Well,
didn't. He
he
was
was,
ill, and he also knew that he was slowly getting ill. But I thought he did. I thought, yeah,
yeah.
he showed he did have a lot of strength.
Oh, he did. He also, I think, it was also the strength, like the strength card. It was the power and strength of the ordinary person.
Mm.
You know, he was almost like the hobbits in the Lord of the Rings. It was the small, you know, the most average of people have the strongest, the most, you know, like Sam saying in the Hobbits and Lord of the Ring, the most ordinary, laid back, easygoing guy that you wouldn't think twice about. The nice fella down the road could be the one who could save the world. You
But
know,
he knew what was right and he knew what was wrong,
yeah,
and he had the strength to do it.
yeah, and the fact that they were innocent, and it also helped as well, because if Johnny didn't have that quality of innocence, he probably would have said, "I don't care. What's not my problem. Let the world go to shit." But he had this goodness about him that was kind of almost like a child. And I thought, like, I love the film. I love the actors, and I think that's when Martin Sheen was a great actor before he became this, like, you know, political nut. And you know, Tom Skerritt as the copper. He's was in so many horror films and other kinds of films like Alien and stuff back then. Fantastic actor. And you're right, it does look dated, but you also see all the cars are all like different looking than today, and you realize how much more freedom,
massive thing that they used to drive.
Yeah, how much more freedom and how life was much better back then than it is now. But that's why I watch a lot of these films from the 80s. I saw that, like, I think I just finished secondary school when I was a year out of it when I saw that film in the cinema, and I absolutely loved it back then. And I didn't even know who Christopher Walken was, and I went back and saw The Deer Hunter and stuff like that. And then when Communion came out, I thought he was amazing in that. But it was definitely an amazing film that was right for its time. And I think it's one of those films, the more you watch, you get more out of it. It's
it's one of those on different levels, isn't it?
And and you empathize with your girlfriend. You feel bad for his girlfriend. She's a victim too.
It's not her fault, was it? She was a nice person, wasn't she? She was trying to do the right thing as well. But in fact, they actually spent a day and an evening and a night as a family with the three of them, which was really quite strange in a way. But she said, "Well, you know, you don't have to wait any longer." And then
I think she knew he was dying too, but she wanted to give him a taste of what could have been.
Yeah, God, sometimes even worse. But
she was trying her best. God love her. You know what else?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, she was great. And then in the morning, she said, "Goodbye. This can't happen like this again." Yeah. He said, "Well, I know it can't." So obviously, she was married, and that was it. But
and he ends up moving to this bleak town. You know, everything goes kind of dark from that point on.
Yeah.
You know, he's you know, but it's. I enjoyed the film very much, and I do like Stephen King's books and films a lot. And he's another one who's become a political nutcase as well.
Does he?
Oh God, his Twitter feed. I had to stop reading his Twitter feed. It's like Trump derangement syndrome times a million, and a real kind of infantile. It's like, you know, write some books, will you? Just get over it.
Yeah, do what you're supposed to do. Yeah, follow your dharma. Yeah.
It's like Bruce Springsteen and Bono was the same thing.
Oh, what's up with these people? You know, Springsteen. I used to be massively into it. I still love his music. But when I used to go and see him, I saw him quite a few times when he came over, many years ago. It must have been about early 1980s, and he was amazing. What a performance of the E Street Band and everything. And what he would do, he was very left wing in the right way, because there was lots of strikes going on and
trade unions and stuff like that.
Yeah, people. Yeah. Fighting for their rights, and he would give, like, I remember in Newcastle, he gave £40,000, and that was a lot of money in those days, folks, to the families of the miners over there. So, and I just think that he's maybe doesn't realise that the left has moved away from him.
Yeah, there's left and then there's woke. You know, there's the old-fashioned you know, trade unions and helping poor people and working class, and then it's woke, and it's like, to me, it happened around it's a beautiful song, "Streets of Philadelphia." It's one of his best songs, I think, and it even sounds like a U2 song as well. Like when I first heard it, I thought it was U2, and And I think that was the point where he went from being the sort of like the union shop steward wannabe to the kind of politician, you know. It was at that point he changed.
Yeah, they shouldn't have really. But it was, it's funny you said you two. We had to decide when back in the early 80s, we had to decide whether we're on. It was like the Beatles and Elvis. We had to decide whether we're U2 or Springsteen.
Yeah.
You couldn't be both. You had to make your mind up which one you were going to be.
Yeah, and the thing is, like they're both, they're at the early. I mean, there's a lot of Bruce Springsteen music I really do like. I really do like it a lot.
Oh, amazing! Yeah.
Songs like The River and Atlantic City is an amazing song, and there's just some, and even like the stuff from like I love the I'm on Fire. That's a really nice song too.
Yeah. You can really feel it, can't you? Yeah.
Elvis kind of Johnny Cash song, that he put at the sound. And then like I love Tunnel of Love, and there's so many good stuff. And same with U2. U2's first 4 albums are incredible, and it's like they really were an incredible band. And now when I see Bono standing next to George Bush, and what happened?
Oh, do you remember? Did he not do a bit of a riff with Tony Blair at one point?
I don't know. I mean, the last time
I think he did, yeah.
The last time I think it was over the Africa thing. You're right about that. Yeah, he probably figured out Tony Blair was a psychopath as well. But I saw a picture on George Bush's tweet, and his arm around Bono, and Bono's like my good friend Bono, and Bono's saying things like, "I've become terribly fond of George Bush Jr." I mean, this is a warmongering, That's like, what is wrong with you,
What's going on?
Yeah. Well, Bono's a very he's a very religious person. He's not a born again Christian, but he's like a very old-fashioned Irish Presbyterian, and they are very sort of like into the whole thing that any soul can be saved. So I think that's how he kind of views George Bush, is like that. His soul has been saved. He's repenting for all the wars and the people he killed by helping Africans, and I think that's where Bono's like thing is with him. That's where that's coming from.
I think that's what it is. Yeah, I do wonder, because
that's why he's into Africa. A lot of those like missionaries would have been like Church of Ireland Protestants,
Right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. See what you mean,
thing,
It's all that same line.
Yeah.
The missionary line.
Yeah, and I think he's just a new form of missionary.
Yeah. So that's it. That's the Sleepy Hollow. Anything you want to carry on? We were going to talk about spirals, weren't we? I think that.
We were going to talk about it, but that's a huge subject. We'll leave that for the next video. We'll push it over. I don't know how long this one has been running, but we can leave
50 minutes.
50 minutes. So in 10 minutes, I know what we can talk about. I'll start to. So, Neil, with the last 10 minutes left, I want to. This is something that's been fascinating me. Do you think the lockdown will change the energy of the megalithic sites?
Wow, there's a thing. I'll have to think about that. It will change the energy of human beings. I think it will change the whole energy of who we are as a species. I definitely think that. And that in its sense will change what is happening at the sites. I think the sites are more universal. They're too old to have one small thing, I think, to change them. That's what I think. But we will change, and because we've changed, we will experience the energies at the sites in a different way.
I agree.
It's a subject we really could think about deeply, and
we'll return to it on a bigger level. But I do. You look at the megaliths that are behind a wall, like that, the lockdown, literally like Stonehenge and Newgrange, right? There's no one since the lockdown. There's been no one going to them, so they've had the better part of a year with no tourists visiting them. At the same time, Castle Rigg, behind you there, and ones like Avebury and Carramore, the public can wander in at their leisure, and they've actually been receiving more visitors than normal because of the other ones are locked down, like the big ones are locked down. So I'd be very interested to see what the energy is like at particularly New Grange and Stonehenge, and other ones like the ones in Malta. They've all been locked up as well.
They have, yeah.
They're all behind a paywall, to put it that way too.
So what? So you're saying are they not has this changed them, but has this let them go back to what they were previously like?
That's kind of what I mean. Like if there was kind of energy that had been kind of overburdened by human impact upon them, has that been lessened to the point where the original energy, like when I see what happened at Stonehenge, they've now confirmed that those stones are probably in Wales, almost certainly, prior to them being moved to where they are now.
Yeah.
And that happened during the lockdown. Now it's almost like as if that couldn't have happened in any other period, as if the stones were giving us their secrets at a point in time when there's the general public can't access them. It's just like something I'm just throwing out there. I'm not saying it's a fact or anything.
What I can't understand about that is, what are they actually saying? Because we know that the blue stones came from the Preseli Mountains. We know that. We've always known that. But are they saying that there was a stone circle there in the Preseli Mountains and that was physically moved, or just that the stones came from there?
Oh no, they're saying that the Preseli Mountains thing is true, right? But they were erected in Wales as a complete monument at some point.
Right, so that's what's new, isn't it?
Yeah.
The new thing is saying that it used. Sorry?
They were transformed over, and they were moved from Wales to the south of England at some point. But the circle was intact.
Right.
What they're saying now. How true this is, I don't know. I'm just going what's been released. But they're also making, and this is a weird one. The legend of Stonehenge is that Merlin had magically
floated them
from Ireland, right?
To the Mabinogion and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. Now, well, it turns out now that where the original this Welsh Stonehenge is located, that at the time of Merlin, that part of Wales was part of Ireland, because during the 4th and 5th century, the Irish were constantly invading and conquering parts of Wales and Scotland. I mean, that's why they speak Gaelic in Scotland. And so that was an interesting thing as well. That may have opened up a whole kettle of worms regarding Arthurian legends. And then right after that, a missing manuscript on Merlin is then found, in some university. So it's almost like a strange.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
Tied around the whole thing, tied around the whole thing.
They always seem to be finding something new about Stonehenge, don't they?
Yeah.
On the cynical side, it says you've got to keep the cash cow fed. That's one side. This English heritage is cash cow. But the other thing is, I don't know, they play around, don't they? Do you remember them finding some sort of medical instruments, and then they said that Stonehenge was obviously a hospital? And that was a few years ago, and there's always something new coming out.
And there's some woman built a model, said it had a big wooden dome on it, which I thought was ridiculous. I thought that was ridiculous.
There's so many different things, and
like a big hobbit house or something. But the one, I think this one, because there's so much scientific data to back it up, is plausible. I just find it very weird that.
How would you find a whole load of post holes, so 5,000 years old, with nothing?
No, depressions in the soil. You can use that LiDAR thing, and the depressions of the bluestones are still in the soil, pushed down. And the LiDAR, I'm just telling what I read, apparently can tell this. The geophys can tell if there was one time a heavy stone on that site. Like, for instance, there was a huge monument in County Meath, near County Louth, near Dundalk, which they were calling Ireland Stonehenge. And it disappeared sometime in the 1800s. It vanished. And they found that where it is, it's basically in the suburbs of Drogheda now, Dundalk now, in a guy's garden, and they know by depressions in the soil that there was once big stones there. So I think that's how they did it. But it's just weird. All these synchronicities happen at this time.
Yeah, in Stanton Drew, you've got all those post holes you can see from aerial photography, can't you? That's like they must have been like concentric circles for wooden posts.
Yeah,
that's a weird thing. There's a massive stone circle. You do wonder
massive.
then whether he had some sort of roof on it, but I don't know. But Stonehenge, yeah, I'd have to look into it. But I see what you're saying. If somebody's found a circle from depressions, or so I don't really know. So I haven't read it. That's the thing, because it was on BBC, and I haven't got a BBC television license anymore, so I'm not allowed to look at it. But
Yeah.
maybe it's
So
really
I didn't watch the documentary, but I just read the thing on Science and the other magazines, like Live Science. But it was very interesting, and it does sound like, yeah, it did happen that the stones were moved from Wales to, for whatever reason. Of course, nothing to do with Maryland because it was thousands of years previous. That's just a legend. But it's just interesting that at the time when Maryland existed, and we know for a fact that Maryland was a real person. He was called Mithrin, and the legend of him coming from Ireland now makes sense because that part of Wales was during the Arthurian times part of Ireland. So I found that part very fascinating. It was almost like a synchronistic bounce.
yeah, yeah.
And lost document on Maryland was suddenly found.
I'd be interested to see how people will change after. It's like people and most generations in the past have always gone through something like a world war or something really really horrific, and we just didn't, did we? We were just, and that was, you could see things dying round us because of that, really, because people were just so wealthy they didn't really have to worry about anything. That's when you get silly ideas popping up. Well,
Yeah.
what will we be like as a people after this? Do you think we'll have changed?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a very good discussion there. We were noticing people we know who bought into the lockdown, all the fear of it, and so many of them are alternative, what we call alternative people. They have aged horribly. They have aged horribly. They look like they've aged 25 years in the last year. Where those of us who didn't buy into the fear porn and the whole, living on the BBC every night getting the updates and quoting government numbers, we all look quite well. We've actually had the opposite effect. So it's psychologically damaged people. I mean, I feel fine. Like it hasn't affected me, but I see friends who've bought into this, and they look like they're fit. They look like they're in their 70s already. It's awful, and they've got this their skin and everything has gone to shite. And that's how it's changed people. I think the ones who bought into the fear porn were literally hexed by it and were literally spellbound,
Right,
and they became cursed by it. I really do believe that. And those of us that didn't, that's why we're still able to keep our mental faculties about all this, is because we haven't been hexed by the BBC and CNN and the rest of them.
I tell you what, I heard on Richie Allen's show on, what day is it today? It must have been a couple of nights ago. John Waters was on, and he gave one incredible performance. I love John Waters. I think he's such a wise guy, and he was so angry, and he just let rip. I'll tell you, if you can listen to that, amazing.
I consider John to be like a modern Irish druid. I mean,
absolutely, yeah. Even looks like one.
And even when I met him, I was like, he's a very nice man, but he's a funny guy too. In his, in regular life. But what struck me about, I was just sitting on, I'm like, okay, you may call yourself a Christian, but what I'm looking at in front of me is like American, one of the great druids of the Gaels or something, And
it looks like that.
He's so passionate and so articulated.
Oh God, yeah.
It makes so much sense, and he's able to express how our souls feel.
Yeah, that's exactly what he was doing. Exactly. You think it's like, oh, let it out. Come on, fill the world with this. Because if he did, then it would all be over.
He's got a fantastic blog as well. I forget what it's called, but his blog is brilliant, and his writings are just inspirational. And I've been listening to him. It's funny. I grew. It's. I know you don't know in the UK, but in Ireland, he was like a very famous media figure. I mean, you're talking about someone like Jeremy Clarkson level. That's how big and popular he was.
But he wouldn't take the.
Imagine if Jeremy Clarkson turned around and said, "Screw this! The world is run by psychopaths," and became like one of us. That's the level of impact that's had in Ireland. They are like he was their golden. He was the golden boy of the Irish media, and now he's completely turned on them, and that's how powerful it is. You know what he's done.
Yeah, you just cannot. If you go against them, that's your career over, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
but
David Bellamy.
yeah. Oh, and he was done for. I mean, the way they did it to him was really shitty as well. There was a drag queen on TV here that's all never off the TV. And he's not a drag queen like Paul O'Grady or Danny LaRue. This guy has no talent. And I refer to him as he's not a real drag queen. He's an air guitar drag queen. He's just dressed up. But like Danny LaRue and Paul, you know, Lily Allen, not Lily Allen, Lily Savage. You know, so much talent. Very funny guy.
Yeah, it's old tradition, isn't it? It really is. Yeah.
They can tell jokes. They're not just fellas in women's clothes. They're talented artists, right? But this guy is, and he just pointed that out, and that was the end of his career. He was called homophobic.
That was it.
Yeah, that was it. And he was called homophobic and everything. Pointing out that the guy was no Danny LaRue or Paul O'Grady.
You weren't allowed to say that.
It was just they wanted an excuse to get him, and that was it.
And that was the thing. Oh, it's terrible, terrible. So, well, anyway, I'm hoping now. I do feel very positive, I have to say. With I don't know what's happening over Ireland, but I'm hoping that now. I think there's so much pressure to keep going with this unlock that hopefully we're getting to a point.
The Irish front page of the Irish Times this morning said the front page headline is "Public want lockdown to end ASAP."
Right. Oh, that's in the news.
Yeah, it's on the cover of the Irish Times this morning.
Well, I tell you, if that's almost saying we're going to do it, then, isn't it?
Well, we'll see, but it's like it's the first thing I've seen. You know, a couple of days ago, we had Varadkar saying 2 to 5 years, and now all of a sudden, out of the blue, they're all backtracking. You know, but to see that on the cover of the Irish Times is like, well, here we go. They're looking for their exit strategy finally.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, it's funny. I got a text message from a friend just after the announcement, and it's so why are we ending on the summer solstice?
Yeah.
There's always a date, isn't there? It's I don't know. Is that significant or not? But
I'm developing a theory that this all started around August and September-ish, 2018. What happened then was that's when Greta Thunberg began her school strike, August 2018, right after Extinction Rebellion came along. And both of those, they were the climate change things, but that both of them fed very directly into the Rona. So, it's almost like that was the beginning of it. And so I'm kind of paying attention to how it ends and to see signs of it ending. But absolutely, I think that something happened. There was a fracture in society or in reality that took place around late summer, autumn to winter 2018, where things just went wrong. I was in a very bad mood all that time, and there was I felt there was a real darkness growing in the world or something. And it was around the time that all the Great Reset stuff started kicking off that's led us to this point. So hopefully we can see the signs of it coming to an end. They've got what they wanted from. They got their data. They got their experiment. They got their clear skies. But to see that on the cover of the Irish Times this morning was almost like somebody said, "Let them know now."
That is massively significant, I think, because with it being the mainstream media saying that, because ours hasn't said anything like that. It's all now. Most people want to be locked down. Most people want to be locked down.
Was the same here?
But it does.
Same here to that. Something really interesting happened here. I know we should be. Well, this is my channel, so I'll say. But
sorry, you weren't supposed to be talking about these things, Phil.
I get away with this for some reason on my channel.
Yeah, why is that?
Because I make money for Google. That's why, and a lot more money than YouTube. That's really what I think it comes down to. They look at the advertising metrics, and then they were uploading. But we won't use certain terms, okay?
Absolutely, no.
I don't know if there's a very famous culinary college in the south of Ireland, in County Cork, Ballymaloe, run by a woman called Darina Allen. And her cookbooks are very famous. And also, you've probably seen a lot of her food is sold in the shops here, The relishes and stuff are very, very popular. Well, what happened was a woman in Balbriggan in North County Dublin the other day opened up her hairdressing salon and said she was going to defy the lockdown. Well, 5 squad cars and something like 20 cops arrived to arrest her. The local woke scumbags doxed her and everything and dragged her name through the dirt in the media and on social media and everything. She had to suffer all that kind of humiliation on the cover of the papers, being charged. On the same day, somebody had discovered that this Darina Allen was running her cookery classes. Now, she's a member of the art establishment with foreign students who were brought in paying 17,000 euros a head for a week-long course of, her culinary thing, right? On the same day. And the same media were saying, what did she say? I didn't break level 5 restrictions. Like in this kind of, I'm not, let the peasants be. Now, her husband was found with a kiddie porn on his laptop about 15 years ago. And so there was already a reset, and they got away with that too. Now, it didn't affect the business. That people said, well, it's not her laptop, so, leave her alone. It was the husband, really. And but he got a slap on the wrist too. But now that happened with her, a part of me thinks the Irish government did it as well, as they need someone to sacrifice in order to justify the lockdown for the ordinary morons,
On the same sort of thing, our health secretary, I can't say his name because I just can't. Well, I can't do it. But he's been found out now for giving massive kickbacks and contracts for PPE and things to people he knew, and that's just come out.
As I call
the guy is still there. He just says, "Oh, it doesn't matter."
Yeah, as I call a big lockdown, we have big oil, big tobacco, and we now have big people line their pockets, from civil servants to, the
there
media.
Was a time where if that came out, you would resign the following day, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah.
But no, it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, but Ireland has become such a shifty and evil country. The government there's now groups in this country who are like spies. They go to countries like Sweden and they start up fake organizations where we want a lockdown. That's because of all the big pharmaceutical companies have all this huge power here. It's like it's like I said, it's changed me. I never thought of this country as being kind of evil. Like I always say, well, that's like, but we're like now. How did it behave during the lockdown? I feel like I'm living in the GDR during the communist days. They have spies now actually going to foreign countries to try and make lockdowns worse. This kind of shit.
It's just it just goes to show we don't have democracies. Never really existed, I suppose. But I think the global powers now have got so powerful that and our government is working for them. So we need some backlash, really, to
combination of the woke, being glued,
which is the same thing,
being glued to the corporations, right?
Yeah.
By the climate change thing was what created the bars on the prison.
Just last one thing before we go. Do you know those things you use to rub your clothes? It's like a sticky thing.
A lint brush.
A lint brush, right? There was a little video on brand YouTube, really short, and it was a guy put himself outside a shop, and he did that. So everybody walked in, and they all put their hands out, and he went over them with this brush. Next one, and every single one put their arms out, allowing to.
But that wouldn't do anything for a virus.
No, I think he was just taking the mickey.
They were so brainwashed they did it.
They did it. They went over like that next with the lint brush.
Email me that link later on, and I'll put up a.
I will. It's only a little one, but it made me laugh. Just shows what people will do. Just put this unicorn hat on.
So until next time.
Yeah. Don't forget to subscribe, please, to try and build the channel up against all odds.
You must be getting. You must be getting a lot of subscribers now.
I got 1,500, which is. I know you've got like nearly 100,000. So it's like.
Yeah, but I've been doing
it longer than me, though.
But I've been doing it longer, and I've been doing a lot more things. But when we started doing this, you had like 800 or something. So it's
nearly doubled.
a healthy increase. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it's nearly double. That's pretty good going, isn't it? Yeah.
It takes time. But anyway, I will see you next time, Neil.
Yeah. So, Brett, I enjoyed this talk. It was great. So, goodbye, everybody, and
all the best, everyone. Look after yourselves.